I'll be like sitting on the weekend and I'll be like, man, I miss the days when I just used to hand roll Rust just for the fun of it. I just taught myself Rust 5 years ago and I miss that. Like, I honestly miss. I'm like laying on the couch, like all sad. I just want to write some Rust by myself. But why would I even do that anymore? Why? I don't know. I get this like whiplash of, am I losing my skills? Data modeling's dead. People don't like to hear it, but I think it's ignoring the reality of the last 10 years of the data lake and lake house at the end of the day.
Hey, Dan.
What's happening?
A lot. What's going on with your Substack?
Oh, man.
A lot of in the works?
A lot in the works. My podcast does pretty well. I was always surprised about that. I just interview people and seems to be a popular thing. Who would have thought? Nice. I'm interviewing Wes McKinney today, the creator of Pandas and co-creator of Apache Air. I talked to him today. I'm super excited for that.
Nice. Okay, well, I'm going to look out for that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Substack, just writing. It's hard to come up with the people. They want new things. It's just hard. I keep it at it at least one a week or more. So it's like, holy bucket, coming up with the next idea. Like scroll Reddit to see what people are complaining about, and then I pick a topic.
I know it's difficult. But one sec, before we get into this more, so you sent me this.
Oh yeah.
On the LinkedIn. So was that just I find this interesting, or did you actually watch the movie?
It's been a while. I've seen it. Yeah. I don't watch too much TV anymore. I got kids.
Okay. I'm a big movie nut, and actually that's from the Hackers movie with Johnny Lee Miller and Angelina Jolie. And I looked that up. 1995 came that out.
Old school.
Actually, when I was young, I actually watched this, so I must have been 14 or something when this came to Europe. But actually, I really like that. As ridiculous as it is.
Yeah, it's like one of the. It's a classic hacker movie, right? You're like looking, see what they're typing. Every once in a while, my wife's watching some on Netflix, and there's some hacker, somebody's doing something like a terminal, and they're just like listing a directory or something like, hey, over there. I don't think they're really hacking nothing.
It's always very, what's the right word? Unrealistic, right? Before you joined, I was thinking about, okay, what most realistic, I'm going to do a poll on LinkedIn. Most realistic hacking depiction in movies, Password Swordfish. Do you remember that with any NCIS episode?
I haven't watched that.
And I haven't watched that because that was also always ridiculous, and Hackers. And one I'm missing, so I'm going to need to come up with one more. If you have one more where it's completely unrealistic, then I'm open for suggestions.
I like movies too. We watched what is it? The Project Hail Mary. Have you heard of that one? Project Hail Mary, the sci-fi one, is a book. It's popular. Came out here. Space one. I like the sci-fi stuff. Zombies are sci-fi. I'm into the zombies or sci-fi.
Me too. Right now, I'm rewatching Stargate. Everything. I'm almost through everything again and watching. So on the side is always some Stargate.
I watch too much YouTube too. It's like the classic program. I'm like watching people build cabins in the woods on YouTube, like building their own cabin out of logs. So I dream like in front of my computer. Wow, that would be nice. Live in the woods, make my own cabin.
Why is this true? There's the one guy in Canada who stopped the YouTube channel.
Outdoor Boys, yeah. I used to
Outdoor Boys.
Watch him with my girl. I've got two young girls. We'd watch it on the Saturday morning. We'd watch it. It's good family fun.
So why this, and not something with coding?
Because you do it all day. I don't know. I do watch the Primeagen. I kind of try to keep up on his takes. Who else do I watch on YouTube for tech? The Primeagen. Have you watched Computer File on YouTube? Computer File. They do like little deep dives into certain topics. I'll watch that sometimes.
Okay. I sometimes look into what Data with Bara is doing because he's doing a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah.
And it's also for beginners, and he has a nice style. But I'm YouTube. I'm in for leisure.
Yeah, me too.
In the evenings. Okay, let's look some Cletus McFarland where they build some cars.
You like the car stuff, huh? Is that you?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. So, okay, let's get back to the topic for everybody's watching. Dan, thanks that you're here. It was really nice on your podcast.
Yeah.
So I thought let's have a chat here. So Wes is coming for you to your podcast. And what do people want to see right now or here?
I don't know. I try to it's interesting. I get a lot of people reaching out to me because they want of course, everybody wants to be on a podcast, right? So it's like all these CEOs or everybody wants to have their marketing for free. Come be on my, I want to be on
Yeah.
your podcast. I just try to pick,
Like,
I just honestly, I'll be like scrolling LinkedIn or Substack and I'll just see someone. I try to keep a tab on the community. So I just watch people who are up and coming, whatever. And I just watch for people who are working on interesting things, talking about interesting things. And then I just send them a message and say, hey,
cool.
can I interview you? Because I feel like it's, I don't know, it's nice to talk to the practitioners, people who are actually doing something, using something every day, who are sharing a little bit of content so they feel comfortable talking. And I just ask people about their background, how they got into tech, which I find interesting. I think other people do too. Just seeing behind the curtains, people talk about their failures, their career trajectory, things like that, right? I can't remember what I asked you. Maybe I didn't ask you those things.
I think we talked about these things,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. But I think I cut it a bit short.
Yeah.
Because I'm always trying to, always going off on some something.
Of course, I always ask about, I'm always interested too, like the classic AI questions that I feel like there's a whole spectrum of people, right? Some people are like going deep, other people are skeptical. I just find it interesting depending. I just, who did I interview? I think it might be releasing tomorrow. I've David, the founder of Corey AI from London. I interviewed him. He was basically like, this was last week I interviewed him. It releases tomorrow. His take was like, hey, we shouldn't even be hiring data engineers. Agents can do everything. And then other people I talked to are the opposite, right? They're like super skeptical. So I enjoy that too, just like poking at people, see what they actually think.
Very interesting. Yeah, I don't know where you are right now with that, because I feel for me it's changing all the time. Agents for everything. No, we can't do that. We can't use them for everything. At what stage are you right now?
I waffle back and forth. So I use Cursor every day. I rarely handwrite code except in rare cases. Because most of my time Cursor, I mean, even before, like my job, my day job at the startup is mostly like architectural systems design anyways. So I don't know, like even yesterday I was working on some Databricks pipelines just from scratch, like tables all the way to pipeline all the way through. And Cursor did a horrible job, honestly. It was like, I don't know. It was okay, but it's like the data types are wrong. It was just like a little bit disappointing. So it just depends what I'm working on, how good it is. And I waffle back and forth between like, I love this, and like then I'll be like sitting on like a weekend and I'll be like, man, I miss the days when I just used to hand roll Rust just for the fun of it. I just I just taught myself Rust 5 years ago, and I miss that. Like I honestly miss. I'm like laying on the couch, like all sad. Like I just want to like write some Rust by myself. But why would I even do that anymore? Why? I don't know. I get this like whiplash of, am I losing my skills? You know, because I think it atrophies. Like personally, I don't know how true that is. Time will tell. I feel like it's this whiplash between I need to be technical to be good at my job. I need to understand what's happening because even though the AI may be writing it, it's, for me, I'm still responsible for it. I got to shit stuff to prod, so I can't just like the classic vibes. I can't. You got to be careful with the vibes. I want to break stuff, but I also feel like I miss just like writing code by myself without Claude looking over my shoulder. I don't know. Weird feeling.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. But for me, it was though. Yeah, I had some in some years where it was like, this is a lot of fun, the whole coding part and being in the flow, and the hours go by and you have music on. That was awesome. But lately, or for the past years, for me, it's more creating the solution than the actual
Correct.
code part.
Yeah, it's understanding what not to write. And even now with AIs, it's, they easily will go down. It's the classic thing. Like it'll say sure to whatever you tell it. If you prompt something, it's going to say, okay, it sounds like a good idea, unless you specifically say, hey, is there other ideas here? I don't know. So I don't know. Again, it's like you said, finding joy and like finding the right solution. You still got to be a good engineer, understand, especially, if you're working on tools like Databricks or even DuckDB, all these tools are they're constantly releasing new things, new features. It's like constant change. So I've found that like my struggle with AI is it's, especially when you're working towards the front end of those features, it like may not, it doesn't, it's not up to date. Even if you feed it docs or something, you got to be pretty rigid about like, this isn't doing it the right way, or I don't know, depending on how complex your production pipeline is, how the code base is spread out, like the pipeline in Databricks I was working on yesterday, it's multiple repos. So that makes it tricky for the AI, the context of two different repos and making sure it understands what goes where infra here, I don't know. Yeah, so I do the same job, but it does feel like I've lost something, like something has been lost inside me, a piece of me.
I get it. Sometimes what I feel like is that I'm just going along.
Yeah.
It creates it, and it's okay. What exactly did it do here? I could look into this,
Or
but fuck it, does it work? Yeah.
I found that like
And that
testing for me is still like super important. Like not only having the AI write all sorts of tests, but also like testing, very rigorous testing in production like systems. So not just because it's easy, like that pipeline yesterday, just like you said, you're kind of going with the vibes. It's like it looks okay. I'm tweaking things, and I feel like I have it to a point where like, okay, I'm ready to deploy this. This is a Databricks pipeline, so I'm just like deploying the asset bundle out and go to test it, and all of a sudden everything breaks in dev, which is great. But like, I feel like I was this close to not like just being like, this is good. It's not gonna break. Like I just didn't listen to the vibes. I worked on it. I looked at it. I had to fix a few things. I'm feeling good about this. I was like this close to not testing, and then no, I need to. And of course it breaks. And Dev, and you're like, ooh, they're paying me to be the smart guy here, and it's really stupid. It's just a good reminder of you got to test everything, especially in the data world, right? Data types. In this case, it was just like some Spark thing, right? The delta. There's like a string versus big N. I was trying to cast. It's just there's still a lot of you got to be careful with the vibes. Test things.
But is that then? I'm always wondering: is that because the models are not good because they don't know the context, or something that they lack the experience?
I don't know if it's a little bit of everything, right? Because in this case, Databricks has their AI dev toolkit, and I had that hooked up, right? It could easily hit the Databricks environment and get like sample data, so it had like, I don't know if because I was working on two different repos. I mean, the DDL, as they were talking Delta, like the DDL, the data types are right there. And, I'd talked to it about this source table. I mean, the DDL's right there. I would just call it a hallucination. I don't know. I don't know what else to call it. And the unit test, all it didn't really catch it. But again, when you're like, how deep are you going on the vibes? Like, and I try to be, even when I'm doing something with AI now, even on that project, I'm always like challenging the AI, telling it to challenge itself. Like, have you tested every use case? Are you sure about this type of, and still, right? It looks good. I feel good about it. Like I said, I almost just shipped it straight to the PR and off to prod, and it's like, better test this. And what do you know? I don't know. It's just like us, maybe in the end of the day, right? It was trained on us. Just another human. It's going to make a mistake. Is it ever going to be perfect? Probably not. Not if it was trained on us. It's not going to be
It's
perfect.
true.
We're imperfect. So it's going to be imperfect. I don't know.
But then for you as the engineer with experience, you need to be there to catch it.
Mm-hmm. And I suppose I was
Definitely.
thinking about this as funny conversation because I see people online saying, what's the latest craze? I don't even prompt anymore. We use for loops and we don't even prompt. If you prompt, you're an idiot. You just should for loop everything. And I don't know. I see other people posting. It's people I know that are like, they're just running agent swarms. They're gas town and stuff. They're just, and I was thinking in my mind, could I have done a better job even at prompting? Like, is it my workflow? I'm having it test everything. Like, could my agent have access to my dev environment and deploy it itself? And that's part of the workflows that deploys and tests and finds the error. And I'm just like, I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know. It's like,
Or is that more in theory? This is a good idea, but
in
it's
theory, right?
more
But
difficult to do. And
especially like super important production facing, like at the end of the day, because if I did that, in theory, could I do that? Yes. I could probably set something up in my workflow where like it just what I did, right? I deployed out to the dev environment and ran the job and went and saw the error and pulled those logs back, saw the error, fixed it. Could have done that, yes. Do I want it to do that? I don't know, because I feel like then I'll find myself in the same place where I almost found myself before, like just shipping something off the prod without testing it, where it's like now I'm not even now I really have no at that point you probably really have no idea what's going on, right? Like honestly, any person that's gonna be honest, you're gonna have you don't know because it's not just like syntax bugs I'm worried about. It's is it actually like producing values, the making the right business decision here, right? There's a lot of like business context that flows into that too. That would totally be out the window, I'm guessing. I don't
Yeah.
know. Maybe I'm just old. Maybe I need to do the guess
No,
town thing. Just get
that
over
that
it.
fits. That fits actually. Let me see if I can quickly, if I have still that still open, because I wanted to record a short video about something in a few minutes, or after we talk here. Let me see, because I think that thing was really good here. That was a image where where it was about, okay, the difference between software engineering and data engineering in this case, right? And in terms of testing, deterministic versus statistical, and spec, it's in the code versus in data engineering, it's in the data, right? Silent errors, permanent, not reversible. I think that it is a thing with it's in the data, right? You need to. It's not just okay. I'm running a quick unit test and that's it.
Correct.
But like you actually need to monitor it better or different than.
Yeah, I would agree because most real life data systems are very intertwined. That's why, like, part of the Databricks platform I work on, like, integration tests are a huge thing, like end to end. So, like, the entire system, like, production system is mirrored in dev. And, like, we have, like, basically dual copies of the entire architecture, right? Dev and prod. And the whole point of that is to be able to run like end-to-end integration tests because like you said it is about the data at the end of the day, and not only about the data itself but it's about the data's interaction with other data, and that like in any normal production system that like spaghetti's, right? Because it's not just oh this one table affects these other three. It's usually who knows 3 or 4 different source systems, and then the data splits and goes here and there, and it might come back to here and then over there, and that's
Absolutely.
it's super easy. Even like you said, unit tests is just not good enough. Even with mock data, it's not good enough. You need to typically have some sort of production like data in dev, like at a fairly regular basis that you can run the entire pipeline. That's really the only way that you can have. And that's what I did. That's how I caught that data here that I was talking about was, running it the entire system because otherwise stuff's just going to get by. I don't know what else to say. It is different from software in that way where yeah, unit tests are important, but the end-to-end data test in a production-like system are even more important, I guess. I don't know.
I think in terms of, and okay, I need to preface this a bit. I created a video. We posted that yesterday for MongoDB, where I created a project with MongoDB, and the idea was to use their agent skills, right, that they've written, so that Claude or whatever you're using actually has an idea
Sure.
or knows the context. I think I never really looked into these because I always felt like I see posts on X. This skill will make you $1,000 per day, and I'm like
Whatever.
but I think that kind of thing is cool. So you said in that one instance where the data types were wrong, so maybe it was lacking in terms of the context, the skills for, okay, this is what my project is actually about. This is what I already have. And so I find this an interesting topic.
Yeah, the skills are interesting. I don't know, a little bit. At the end of the day, some part of like in the beginning, some of my hesitation with some of that stuff is like people are basically writing an MD file with a bunch of crap and then they're calling it something funny. Just come up with a name for it and say like this is going to change your life. I'm like, maybe if you suck at your job it'll change your life, but if like you were a good engineer in the first place, I don't know how big of a deal this is. I know it's a little tongue in cheek, but it's like if you're good at your job, whatever, you shouldn't be talking to your prompt, your little AI prompt, like it's a 5-year-old. You need to just like if you're working on a big engineering project, you need to spend the time planning, and that should all be part of what you work on with Cursor, right? And I get it. Sometimes you're working on like change this little function or whatever, but typically if you're working on a new pipe, you need to spend the time. Like, are you not going to tell it about your data sources? Like, you probably should. You would tell if you were making a Jira ticket and hand it off to your junior dev, and you would have put that information in there, right? You would have put as much information as possible to be as clear as possible. So I don't know why you wouldn't do that. I'm more interested. Have you done much with the MPC servers, MCP servers?
MCP, yep.
I mean,
I think there was also a part of that project, which these things, I also had for my students, other projects where I built the MCP server. It's cool.
Right. I mean,
it's helpful.
It can be super helpful. I feel like sometimes it's a little very specific. I don't know. Like, again, like using the Databricks Dev AI kit, being able to have it go pull data or do whatever. Like, I don't know. Like, it makes me nervous too at the same time. Even when I was doing that yesterday, I'm like, man, you got to make sure your permissions and everything are set up. Like, you never know what it's going to do. I don't know.
But I think two things where I used them and I thought that is an interesting thing. First is basically finding problems. If the MCP has the right, how they're called, features? No, they're not called features. They're called skills. I think it's also skills. If it has the right skills and the skills are described well, and for instance, on Databricks, it has access to your logs and then can find the right information for you. I think that is really, really good. That it still kind of hallucinate and not be correct all the time. But I think that is a really interesting angle from an engineer perspective. And also, as you said, if it has access to your data, actually. And I used that in that MongoDB project where I said, okay, I need a design, a schema design for that document. And here is the base document that's coming into that collection. Look into the collection and see what would be a good schema. And I think that is cool because then it can look at the actual data and it can.
Yeah, part of it for me is I don't know. So I feel like I look at the landscape, I'm like, well, it's sort of like a level playing field now because anybody can have this MCP or the skill. What has really changed? I don't know. It's a level, I can't say, like there's a guy next door to me and he's using some MPC and some skill that I'm not, say even on Databricks, for example. And that means he can get that Jira task done in half the time as me. I'm not sure it matters at the end of the day, like, because what is the actual difference? Like, if I'm still using Cursor and I'm not using any MPCs or skills, I'm just kind of old school. Like, you've got three people, right? The person not using AI at all, it takes them all day to do the ticket because they're hand rolling everything. You got me in the middle who's maybe using Cursor or ChatGTP, and I'm just like, getting it done in a reasonable amount of time. And you got like the 10x engineer that we all talk about, or the 1000x engineer, the 100x engineer, who's like, I didn't even like, they sent me the Jira ticket and now it's done. Like, I didn't, and I'm like, what is the actual difference between us? Like, sure, I guess with that guy that's hand rolling everything, maybe if he's been doing it for 20 years, maybe there is no difference between me and him. And maybe his solution's even better. I don't know. Maybe, yeah, I did it fast and that 100x engineer did it like within a minute. But at the end of the day, is that what's happening? I mean, I think about my workplace. Is my boss sitting there with like a pile of 1,000 Jira tickets and like that dude's getting 1,000 done and I'm getting 500? So like he gets the promotion, or I don't know. Maybe my solutions are better than him because I take time. Like, maybe we should be slowing down because it's a level playing field with all the same tools. Slow down, think about don't introduce tech debt, understand it, because when something goes wrong and breaks, like, you're the guy, they're not going to ask a 100x engineer. He's going to be like, I didn't write the code. I have no idea, probably, because he never read anything or looked at anything. Whereas I can be like, I actually took the extra 15 minutes to read through the code and I understood that context and it's in my brain, so I can answer that question and let's stand up to that business person. Now I look like the smart guy. I don't know what your thoughts are.
But can you really remember? When I wrote code, I knew exactly what was, back in the day when I did Java, I knew exactly in which class, which method was what. But if you let this Claude development, and you go through the code, can you really memorize it in that way?
No, I think what I'm memorizing is, or what I'm doing today is I'm still trying to be the subject matter expert. I'm not trying to be like the 10-year-old, like the 10-year ago me, or I'm not trying to be that mid-level engineer that's tries to remember everything ago, but I'm trying to keep the business context. I'm trying to think about like what the CTO thinks is important. I'm trying to think about the architecture of the system I'm working in. I'm keeping that all in my brain. Like, how do we do things? I keep in mind where the tech debt is, how this code base looks, how it works generally, the business context that I've learned over time applied to that code base. And that's what I try to like keep on top of and understand. And I don't know, basically have an answer for. So when the question comes, because most of the questions aren't like, very rarely, I mean, sometimes sure it's like, why is this number wrong? But typically they're more nuanced. Like the questions that come up, it's like such and such page showed this, and I think it's off. And like, you have to have some sort of context of that, right? You're like, oh, I understand the business context of how that's used. I generally understand our architecture. I know where that sits. I know code works. So I think when they even say something, I'm like, oh, I think I know where to go look for that. I don't know. Maybe depending on how much maybe business context you've put in your semantic layer, maybe the AI could figure it out. But the guy sitting there, the other three people in the stand up probably can't because they haven't been paying attention. They've just been 10xing Claude, and I don't know.
I don't know either. The thing is, first, I'm not sure with jobs where your only purpose is solving tickets. That seems kind of boring,
right? That and like that's the whole idea of the 10x engineer, right? Is like, I guess if your only job is just to spit out code, if you're a code machine.
Yeah. But I would say that's usually not the case. You need to have that context and you need to have that experience.
Yeah, it's funny you said that because I think I have a blog post coming out. You asked about my Substack. Like, I literally have one in my schedule.
What is it called?
It is called How to 10x the 100x Claude Engineer. That's the title. How to 10x the 100x Claude Engineer. Because that's just what I did, is like talking about don't forget where you came from. Remember the old ways. Remember how to plan a project, lead people, work on soft skills, positive attitudes, improve everything you touch, work hard.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That makes sense. Makes sense.
Because I guarantee the 100x Claude engineer is not thinking about that. They're just thinking about the next MCP or the next skill, which is fine. I'm all about that too. I use AI every day. I'm not an AI denier. I use it every day to write my code, but I also intersperse it with my humanness to make sure that like I'm very well rounded.
Yeah. So also in terms of that, where you said, well, how much difference does it make for the company? I'm always skeptical. So I'm the skeptic wherever. I'm never the one to move first. I'm always like this. I have heard this before. And for that kind of 100x developer and so on, we first need to see, is the quality really okay? Really, because it doesn't really matter how fast you close tickets and how fast you solve something. It needs to be solved well. It needs to be done right. And you need to transmit that knowledge somehow. Because if you don't have it and it's just in the AI and you know how AI is, well, then somewhere it needs to be somewhere.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. The other thing that you brought up, my Substack, and it was on my mind. So I've been like thinking about this more lately. The AI, somebody posted somewhere, it was basically, I don't know, I didn't really think too much, but who knows how true it is, and maybe it was just a platitude, but they were basically saying, well, AI is sort of like bad at creativity, because I kind of consume like some content from people in Substack that are more like creators like us. So kind of follow people that are not in tech, but they're just creators generally. And they were just complaining about, AI is bad at creating things. That's kind of like their thesis, because it's trained on us. It's really like new things or whatever. Maybe not the best at like creativity wise. I don't know. Yes or no. But that also got me thinking about the other part of the reason why when I mentioned I was kind of like depressed on my couch. It's Saturday and I'm like, oh, I wish I could just write Rust by myself. I'm depressed. And why is that? Well, it's kind of in that the same vein of like, I missed what is it that I missed? it was probably the creativity of doing something myself. And I wrote about that in that 10x in the 100x cloud engineers, like that love. Try not to lose the love for what we do as like a data engineers or data people or software people, like loving your craft, sort of like a blacksmith would love to like hammer out and make something. Like, could you do it because you love it? And that's kind of what it like kind of inspired me to go back on my Substack and like just do new things that are new to me. Even if I use AI, like do something new, if that makes sense, something that gives me joy. So I was playing around the other weekend. So I went, that like inspired me literally. So then that Sunday I went and I don't know if you heard of Apache Data Fusion Comet. It's like a Spark accelerator. Um, so it was kind of took me back to my old days where I just like I went and found some brand new tool I'd never used, some's kind of new, and I just went and
Yeah.
ripped it apart and wrote about it and just tried to use it myself and like struggled through it because even with AI, it was like some tool that's super new. There's just not a lot of even blogs about it or anything, and it just gave me, I was struggling, breaking. I couldn't even get it to work even with AI at the end of the day, trying to get this Spark accelerator work on Databricks, and I had so much fun doing that because I was like it just took me back 10 years where I was like breaking things and not able to figure it out and
Yeah.
struggling. And my wife's, why you're mad? And I'm like, I don't want to talk about it. And then come back to it 3 hours later and try to finish. And so it's actually why I love to do what I do, like finding new and exciting things and trying them. And I don't know.
Sure. Yeah. There is almost no better feeling than you struggle on a problem for half an hour or an hour. You take a break, you come back and you solve it in 5 minutes. And it's like, oh my God.
I was going to
And
ask
it's,
you, this is totally off topic. I wrote on my subs. I didn't go to the Databricks AI summit this year. It sounds like you didn't either. I wrote a little
no.
like I was kind of watching people posting about it and whatever. What do you think? And everybody's super mad about the Lakehouse RT at real time. Like this whole have you everybody's super mad. They're like, it's I'm just I think it's I'm just curious if you have any like gut reaction. Where do you think it's gonna go? For people who you don't know, Databricks announced like Lakehouse RT and it's like bringing real-time analytics to the Lakehouse and it's more or less millisecond latency on your lake house. And I won't get into like how it works, but like they announced that and some people are like, yeah, and other people's like, you're a liar. I'm just it's definitely groundbreaking, right? I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, how should I say this? I'm always
There you go,
skeptical in
skeptical
terms
again.
of these marketing claims. It can be really good, but oftentimes it's for certain use cases, it's really good. It's like when everybody was talking, oh, now we have Iceberg and we store everything in the data lake and everything's fine. No, it's not the perfect solution. But I feel like I haven't looked too much into it, but that feels to me exactly like that. And there are tools like this who are really good. I have a free course coming out, I think next week, if we're staying on schedule. It's actually an interesting project, a company Exasol. I don't know if you
I've
ever
heard of
heard
it.
of
Oh
them.
yeah, I've heard of them.
And it's more, I would say, more traditional. You can set up the infrastructure on AWS on premises, and you can decide, okay, I want to have that many machines,
Mm-hmm.
and it's quick because it uses in memory and also stores the data on disk then after time, and it does the indexing for you and so on. And that is and it's really fast, and this reminds me back to when not everything was a black box. You have to make decisions and you need to understand, why does it make sense? Why are you using a distribution key? I think
It's
these
it's you bring up an interesting point. It is an interesting world we live in where people like Databricks, Snowflake, they make these awesome data platforms. They clearly do something right because everyone's using them, and they make like they're great platforms. But at the same time, you're right. It's funny because I've been using Databricks for forever since most people were even knew what it was. I've been using it, and it's funny to see this transition of I'm trying to have a nice way of saying this in case somebody from Databricks sees this because they're one of my sponsors, so I don't want to get cut off either. But this where it's I don't know they and I think every company does this. They just want to I don't they want to dumb everything down. They want to obfuscate everything. They want to put 15 layers of abstraction and everything so people don't have to think. And I think it's well intended, right? They want to bring spark
of
to the
course
masses. It's great, but then all of
exactly.
a sudden you wake up and data scientists are using notebooks to run production code, and they're using all-purpose cluster and burning thousands of dollars a day. And you're like, how did this happen? How did we get here?
It's natural that they want to have as many users as possible. Big companies adopting it. As you said, dumbing it down with especially Databricks with the, what did I do in the course that I released in February? Declarative pipelines.
Yeah.
And the Lake Flow Designer, right? Where you can now
what is this?
With Genie.
What is this? SSIS? What would be like? I woke up and it's like I did that 15 years ago. What am I doing? Like,
but I think it's a good idea overall because people know that, right? And you can bring in people that don't have those skills yet with Spark, serious coding. I think it's a good idea, but is that really a good idea to dumb everything down?
I don't know. It's the way of the world. I don't know. It's just what happens.
One thing where I have always a bit of a beef with these companies, first of all, it's super expensive. It's crazy. And not just Databricks.
Yeah,
Snowflake as well, for instance. Right? And one of the things is that people always think the cloud is the best way to do it and have it hosted, everything as a service. And that was interesting with the whole Exasol thing because they specifically said there are a lot of companies who want to have this on premises, who want to have this in their own AWS accounts. They are in charge. They have regulations around where you can't even use these platforms. Right? So you still have these things because it's not going to go away. And we're being told all the time that, yeah, these are the old ways.
Did they deploy it on Kubernetes or something, or just like old school deploy it? Install this on some EC2 instance. Yeah,
EC2s. Boom, boom.
That takes me back to my SAP days, way back, and it's like installing SAP on servers, and yeah, it's old school way. That's good, right? Though, because that means somebody's learning about ports and balls and getting things talking, and you're right, like you're in control of your own destiny.
Yeah, you still have infrastructure as code. It's not like that you need to actually set everything up manually, but yeah, you know the security. You can actually see, okay, this is my ACL. This is inbound. This is outbound. Okay, this is what's happening. I think this will never go away.
Yeah, probably not. But the other thing you brought up with the cost thing, whether it's Databricks, Snowflake, whoever, I think it also has, and we talked about abstraction. I think a lot of that has to do with like sloppiness, because I've even seen that in my Databricks architecture. Because when you make everything easy, then it's just like you stop caring about should I be cleaning up this data? We're just going to give this a couple extra nodes because I don't care. And it's just sloppiness, right? Just data scientists, they need this all-purpose cluster to run all day, and they're training a model, so we'll give them a terabyte of RAM, and then you forget about it, and they're still using it to select top 10 out of a table 2 weeks later. It's just like sloppy. You know what I mean? Like that. A lot of the cost can be like, I feel like it's very expensive, but also it's just like engineering culture of you need to stay on top of that stuff, right? You should be watching your costs. You should be understanding your compute. What's the best way to use this compute, or should I even be using it? Should I use DuckDB, or I don't know.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. Oh man, I'm so bad with it. One of the things I'm always bad with names, because I was working with a company last year. They had, especially for Spark, something really interesting where they take the logs, the costs, and they give you a dashboard that shows, okay, this is basically doing nothing and costing you that much. These pipelines are costing you that much. And that was really interesting. That was really cool.
Yeah, I've seen some new tools come out. There's another one, that Data Flint is a new one. I talked to that guy. It's a Data Flint. I'm trying to remember his name. I interviewed him. Yeah, I feel like there's still a lot of like room there. And I've been surprised that, and maybe I've just missed it, but like I would have thought with the rise of Databricks and Snowflake, you would have had more of what you're talking about, like all these companies that are like, and I'm sure there is, but I don't hear about them enough. I know, because there's a lot of fluff and there's a lot of complexity, and like, I'm just surprised we don't have, I don't know, companies that are like, hey, plug your Databricks token in here and we'll like tell you all your permissions are wrong. We'll tell you which tables haven't been touched. which data hasn't been read in X long, which one, like you said, which pipelines have all the spend on them. I don't know.
Would that be a good thing?
Maybe. No one has time. That's a problem, right? It's like it's like the famous data contracts and data quality, and no one has time. Everybody talks about it. No one does it because no one wants to put the time. No CTOs. Yeah, I'm going to invest a bunch. I'm going to invest $1 million in our data contracts or data quality. It doesn't. Everybody talks about it. Nobody does it. Data contracts are going to save us for the last 5 years, and here we sit.
Yeah, exactly like data governance.
Right.
You see that all the time. You see the buildings that are nicely built, and then below the foundation that is damaged, and it says data governance. Nobody has time for it. That's the
Nope. Yep.
It's the same way on the next level. On this level, nobody has time for everything that isn't productive, governance and
whatever quality.
And then on the next level is where people say, engineering. Who cares about engineering? We just want to have it done.
Right.
Why do we need 10 engineers here? Can't we just go to 5 with AI? And it's like,
I have a prediction. I think I'm curious what you think about my prediction. I think the semantic layer is the next data quality thing. Everybody's talking about it. Everybody's been talking about the semantic layer. Is not new. It's been around. I've written about it for years. AI has brought, everybody's talking about the semantic layer for AI again. And it's like, people are just lazy. It's the same thing as data quality because it takes work for people to go to make that semantic layer. They got to document everything. They got to go document their joins and the tables and the data and make a description. Who's actually going to do that? Everybody talks about it. No one's going to do it. So I hope I get proved wrong. But the semantic layer is the next data mesh or whatever else then everybody talks about and doesn't do.
With everything that has to do with documentation.
And because that's a really semantic layer, right? Like at the end of the day, it's like quasi documentation, quasi like, hey, what are the joins keys and like, what is the grain of the data and what's the descriptions? What does this column mean or what does this table hold? And then, of course, you have all the business context you could layer on that. I'm surprised there hasn't been more in that. Everybody talks about it. When I go Google, I'm like open source semantic layer, and there's like one thing or like, I don't know. It just says, to me, when I look like peer back the hood, it's like, well, this is just marketing stuff and I understand its use case, but this is just like marketing blogs put out by everybody under the sun because it's a popular topic. But when you like peel back the layer, you're like, well, no one's actually building anything. I don't know.
I think we're coming back to there's no time for it. But for these things, I always hope, okay, AI can actually help us there. We're just going to feed it the documents if we have documents and we let somebody sit there and AI is going to ask them, is this right? And they say yes and do it, or no, we need to add this kind of information to it. And then
I don't know.
One person can do it
because it's like the data contract thing. Not only do you have to make the semantic layer, like that's what, like you just talked about, that's a one whole set of things. But what about the like, how do I get Databricks Spark to like, or Claude? Like, how do I, that's making the semantic layer is one thing, but then you have this older set of work. It's like, how do I integrate it into all my tools? Right? You got to build all these integrations for whatever tools you're using, I don't know. That's in my opinion.
And then at the end, this is a 100x engineer who's vibe coding it with AI and forget about it. Okay, it works all the way. Anyway.
Job security. We're not going anywhere, me and you. We'll be complaining about this stuff in 20 years.
That's the thing. Then I'm the dinosaur in 20 years. But it's like...
You're ready to retire. You got to be ready to retire in about 5 years, don't you? Come on. Be done. Get a goat and a sheep and...
Yeah, I would actually have a source for goats. My brother has some.
Nice.
No, I think the whole topic engineering is going to stay. I'm fascinated with how can we make it more efficient. What's just today, because I was still on the skills road here. What are some skills that actually I'm thinking of the gamer thing. Okay, you have a game and you want to get mods, you want to get add-ons that make life easier. Sometimes it's more complicated because you have too many installed and everything's getting fucked up. But what would be some add-ons to the engineer, to the vibe coding?
Are you trying to start your next, don't say it out loud, are you trying to come up with your next $1 million startup idea over here.
No, but it's like I'm thinking for the learner or the normal engineer. What would 100% sure that not everything needs to be custom? There are some, I don't know, guidelines that people can use to just have the AI check against
I
like
think, like to me, the
best practice.
biggest thing is like still is like system design. I still think a lot of people lack system design, systems understanding architecture. Like Claude is great at saying like if you're like I have the CSV file in S3 and I need you to read it and write it to this Delta table in Spark. And it's like, no problem, man. Easy. But like the context of the bigger picture, right? It's always that system design for like, what is the architecture and system? What do the other pipelines look like in that code base or that team? Like this, the whole should you even be doing that? You're like, oh, wait a second, we have this other pipeline that does that. And it's like quasi code, but at the same time, it's more of like the systems design level, architectural thinking. I feel like that's always a
Yeah,
struggle. I don't know.
that's true. I'm also like from what I have done and what interests me is architecture is the most interesting part for me. And I feel like you need to have some experience there, and you
Mm-hmm.
need to like you need to ask the right questions, you need to understand the data right, and then you need to make decisions, good decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And with AI, it can get you there maybe 70%, but it can fuck up like all the time. It's just one quick anecdote. I found again my love to city building games. When I was young, SimCity
Sure.
2000, I think, was that thing. And I found again, what's wrong with my camera? Why isn't this? Okay. I found city skylines and I was just building. Right? And I was using ChatGPT on the side. Okay, how can I optimize this? And I was like, okay, I have a city, 10,000 people. Should I build a metro? And ChatGPT, no, you don't need to build a metro. Nobody builds a metro. It's you don't need it. Build bus lanes and so on. And I was just like, fuck it, I'm going to build that metro. And then I built it and I said, okay, I have people actually waiting on the stations and a few hundred visitors. And it's, oh, looks like it did work for you. Yeah. Okay. So it had no idea. It was just like saying this. And without me, without experience,
Mm-hmm.
I was just, okay, then I tried. But if you do that in a professional setup,
The other piece I feel like is always missing with people and projects, even you, I mean, this has been like the classic story on the internet, right? Anybody can vibe anything, but like it's the infra, like that's the other piece. And it's sort of like systems design, but it's sort of not. So I'm talking like infra, like infrastructure as code, how it's set up, and I'm like deployment, CI/CD, like all that stuff. It's like it's glossed over. Like somebody's like, oh, I vibe coded a SaaS, but like now I don't know what to do with it. Or like your classic data engineer is like, oh, I made this pipeline, but should it have been a Spark declarative pipeline? Should it have been an asset bundle? How do you deploy it? Or is it in Git? What happens when you do a merge? Does it deploy and run all the unit tests before it like passes and deploys itself? I don't know. That's the other piece that I feel like super important, and I spend a reasonable amount of time working on in my job is like making sure that stuff is set up well and that stuff keeps working well, because all the vibes that 100x Claude engineer is doing is not, it's no good if like what's the point of it if all those 100x pipelines are vibe coding out, aren't deployable, or they don't, the tests don't run when they put in a PR, you know what I mean, all that sort of like stuff that
yeah.
everybody glosses, no one talks about it because it's not fun. But yeah, what about the infra, right? What about the CI/CD? Because it's super important and no one talks about that.
Yes. On the other side, you don't also need a lot of people for that usually. But like
No, you don't. You
in
need somebody
in a
doing it
set,
though.
yeah, you need somebody doing it. But especially in a that's why I have so much beef with people who say focus on fan companies and big tech. It's everything, and in normal companies, you're not doing good work.
Mhm.
There's you're always second class citizen if you haven't worked for Facebook. But like in these companies, are you really getting the chance to
No,
do this?
no, you're probably touching
Exactly.
one little tiny. Your experience, you ship them off to a startup, and they probably get fired because they don't even know how to build a Docker or a Docker company. They don't do anything like that. They just write SQL statements, maybe some
Yeah,
like
that's
specific
the thing.
version of SQL, not even real SQL or something.
Yeah. And so you don't really need that many people, but for architecture, but you should have that knowledge because if you get into a job that needs you to have not just as I said, that
Hmm.
much, that much, then you're screwed.
Yeah.
Like,
It's like people need to understand that a data platform is a data platform for a reason. People talk about data engineering, which is great. They talk about analytics, whatever, analytics engineers, but I feel like people need to think about it. It's a data platform. They call it that because it's like a living thing. You should see it as like, when I ask somebody, hey, what's your data platform like? You shouldn't say, oh, we use Airflow and we run our pipelines on Databricks or Snowflake. That's not, you're just telling me about the tools. You're not telling me about the bigger picture of what is a data platform. Well, there should be some sort of observability in there, right? There should be some sort of orchestration in there. There should be some sort of like theory about how we deal with storage and compute and, even data quality. Like there should be these very high level thoughts around, no, this is how we didn't just buy a bunch of tools and stick them together, which you can do, right? We just bought this and that. We just shoved them together and it works. But I feel like that's never going to work as well as a team or a person who's like, let me think about this data platform as a whole. Let me think about, I'm not just saying Airflow. I'm like thinking about, oh, how do we actually monitor pipelines? How do we get alerted when something breaks? Those are very existential questions. They
yeah.
can be very existential. Like, do we get a alert in Slack? Like, you think about these very high level just ideas of what makes a data platform work well overall. How do we observe things? Not necessarily like, oh, my data platform is Snowflake. Well, that's a great, but that doesn't really tell me anything about what's going on, because a lot of people have Snowflake, right? And you may just be like vibing, you just maybe winging it, or you could maybe you do have really good setup. I don't know if that rings a bell with you, that
Yeah.
whole data platform thing.
Yeah, winging it with the data platform. I think you should always know the why. Why are we using this? Why are we doing it this way?
Yeah,
Why
how does
you're
this work with
even
that?
looking into.
Yeah, like tech. Yeah, why these two things? Because they work together. Did you just buy it because you bought it? I don't know. Interesting. And it fits into that architecture systems design. It's like a way of thinking at a little bit higher level than just a data pipeline.
Before I let you go,
Mm-hmm.
I know you have another meeting later as well. So I've been on Saturday. I posted something on LinkedIn where people were telling me I'm an idiot. Like this is an L take. This is a big L
You're
take.
used to that
I
by
would.
now. I am.
This is actually these are the most
All
fun
right.
things. If you post online, why would you want to have people agree with you all the time? It's the fun thing. So I was saying, what is the most overrated topic in data engineering? And I said data modeling.
Agree. I would agree with that. Data modeling's dead. People don't like to hear it, but I think I think it's ignoring the reality of the last 10 years of the data lake and lake house. At the end of the day, what I'm not saying is that like I didn't say data modeling doesn't matter, and data modeling can't help, and data modeling can't make things better. Lots of things can make things better, but it's definitely dead. This isn't SQL Server world anymore where you have to spend all day working on queries and writing indexes. And the very fact that you're in your lakehouse not creating an index for anything, for most people, like the 99% of people out there on a lakehouse are not, they're not going into Databricks and like creating indexes. So like my lakehouse that runs Medallion or runs Kimball, if you want to call it that, that's just like, that's preference. It's just preference. It's just like logical. Oh, I'm used to that way of thinking about my data, so I'll do it that way. But that's different from like, yeah, data modeling is like definitely overrated for sure.
Yeah. It's also like people, and there were actually a lot of people who said it's the most important thing. And my argument is, and that is also, I completely agree with what you say. Additionally to that, for me, it's AI is very good at it. If you
Yeah.
know a bit what you're doing, AI can spit out that so quickly because it's a very structured thing.
Yeah.
And like, you don't need 10 courses for it, and you
No.
don't need to read all the books.
Not at all. If you have free time and you want to, I'm never going to tell anybody not to
Yeah.
learn something. Go ahead. But yeah, think all the Postgres schema that LLMs are trained on. Yeah, you don't. And again, most people are working in a lakehouse world where at scale, it just simply doesn't matter that much beyond like maybe clustering and partitioning. If you call that, I don't even know if I'd call that data modeling. It's just, maybe it isn't. It's like quasi. But beyond that, like understanding data layout as far as like big data, which I don't really think is a data model. necessarily.
No, but you have a data model here and there when you think of, or when I think of, okay, you have a streaming application and data is coming in and it needs to go somewhere into a store. And people immediately think about dimensional modeling, but there is so much where it's not dimensional modeling. You put this in a document store because it needs to be accessed from a UI or something. That still needs a data model. How are you storing the data? But
yeah, it's old habits die hard. I think it's one of those topics that, yeah, I think the existence of medallion architecture as like a thing like proves that data modeling doesn't matter anymore, because medallion architecture is really just like a marketing thing. Just drop your data in 3 different spots and clean it up on the way, and that's all it is. That's not data modeling. True. And you've all been using it, talking about it, so it means proves the point. You know what I mean?
True. Yeah, that's true. Okay, so I wasn't that wrong.
No.
There's at least one other person that I know that can see my vision. Yeah, but it's fun when people then come on and say, "Oh, this is an L take.
Oh man, I get
this
that.
is the worst take I've seen from you."
It's free. I don't know. I don't go out of my way to make people mad, but like definitely when you say stuff online, people are going to disagree with it, and powerful people will disagree with it. That's okay. That's okay. We're all different.
Okay, Dan. Thank you very much.
Super
for
fun.
The time. It's really fun chatting with you. You are a very knowledgeable person. You are also a creator, which I like. I can relate to that. And I love to hear, okay, I have something in the pipeline, and that is it. It's awesome. I'm going to make sure that we put the link to the Substack. How is it? Data Engineering Central.
You got it. Right? Yeah, can subscribe.
Put that in the chat. Please, everybody subscribe there. Yeah, maybe see you next time.
Yeah, sounds good. See you. Thanks.